So I'm sure some of us are fascinated about how our planet looked back then. How does the Earth evolve over geologic time, and what role does geologic time play in understanding the Earth's history? Greetings, Sairah Mae Alberto here. Today we'll look at the evolution of the Earth over geologic time. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Miss Hannah Monsanto, who will be providing us with the initial information.
Good day, everyone. And the first topic that we will tackle today is all about the Earth through time adaptation. We will witness the vast diversity of life that's been present on Earth over time by using the geologic. What is geologic time scale? Geologic time scale, to shorten its definition, is the calendar for events in the Earth history. And did you know that one of the first scientists to understand geologic time was James Hutton? James Hutton believed that the same processes that work on Earth today form the rocks and fossils from the geologic time scale is divided into major chunks of time called eons. The eons can be further divided into eras, and each era is divided into periods. However, we should always remember that the chunks of geologic time are not divided into the equal number of years. Instead, they are divided into blocks of time when the fossil record shows that there were solar organisms on Earth. As you can see, the Proterozoic belongs to the eons, and the rest of the periods such as the Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Mississippian, Pennsylvanian, the Permian, the Triassic, the Jurassic, the Cretaceous, Tertiary, and the Quaternary periods they are known as the periods. And as we go further to our discussion, we will be witnessing on how the life on Earth has changed, and also we will witness the appearance of the fishes, and the extinction of the dinosaur. Okay, so now let's go forward to the Proterozoic. The important events that happened in Proterozoic was there are no life possible as the Earth initially formed. Humans and the plants and the animals are not seen in this period, and only the prokaryotes and then the eukaryotes. The first inhabitant of the Earth are the prokaryotes about approximately 3.5 to 3.8 billion years ago. So the prokaryotes are the single-celled organisms that has neither a distinct nucleus with a membrane nor the other special organelles. And the prokaryotes includes the cyanobacteria and the bacteria. While the eukaryotes are those cell or organisms that have a defined nucleus. So always remember that prokaryotes don't have a distinct nucleus, while the eukaryotes have a defined nucleus. The cyanobacteria in this period, it begins to produce free oxygen. It start to produce free oxygen, and the land masses that gather to make up a continent called Rodinia. The three notable events that happened in the Proterozoic was the transition to an oxygenated atmosphere during the Paleoproterozoic, and the evolution of the eukaryotes. Next is the Cambrian period. So the next is the Cambrian period. The explosion of life happens. The all existing phyla come into being at this time, and the life forms in warm seas as oxygen level rises enough to support life. Life. The dominant animals are the marine invertebrates, which are the trilobites and the brachiopods. The supercontinent Gondwana forms near the south and the pole that note that the position of present-day Florida. Uh, since the Proterozoic era, the beginning of the cyanobacteria begins to produce oxygen. In the Cambrian, the cyanobacteria leads to the explosion of life in the Cambrian because of the oxygenation in the atmosphere. In this In this period, the explosion of life was seen. The Cambrian explosion saw an incredible diversity of life emerge, and that includes the major animal group alive today. And among them were the chordates, to which vertebrates such as animals with backbones and such as humans belong. As you can see in the first picture, it it shows the example of the trilobites. Because of the emission from photosynthesizing cyanobacteria rather, in the Proterozoic, the environment in this period became more hospitable with a warming climate and rising sea levels, flooding low-lying land masses to create shallow marine habitats ideal for spawning new life forms. As I was saying earlier, that the dominant animals in this period are the trilobites and the brachiopods. They are both marine invertebrates. The trilobites are the iconic arthropods of the Cambrian, and they left a huge number of fossils. Trilobites had flattened segmented plated bodies that help to protect them in the seas that are increasingly filled with predators. So trilobites have its own protection for the predators, so the predators could not attack them. While the brachiopods they live in shells resembling those of clams and cockles. So as the year goes by, the the Cambrian period become extinct, and it leads to the Ordovician period. Next is the Ordovician period. In the Ordovician period, the first animal with bones appeared through dominant animals are still trilobites, brachiopods, and corals. A very cold in time Earth's history, there was a great extinction due to ice caps in present-day Africa. The four main continents are the Gondwana, Baltica, Siberia, and the Laurentia. The Ordovician period lasted almost 45 million years, and it begins in 488.3 million years ago and ends on 443.7 million years ago. The Ordovician period was best known for its diversity of marine invertebrates, and that includes the trilobites and the brachiopods. So some research found out that in the Ordovician period, the mass extinction wiped out 85% of the marine species because they got extinct because cooling climate or changes in the oxygenation of the ocean. So during the Ordovician period, there were four major continents which are known as the Gondwana, the Baltica, Siberia, and the Laurentia. And that ends the discussion in the Ordovician period. Next is the Silurian period. The Silurian period is that the first land plants appear and land animals follow. The Laurentia collides with Baltica and closes the Lapito Sea. Then the coral reefs expand and land plants begin to colonize barren lands. First, millipede fossils and scorpions found in this period. In this period, as I was saying, coral reefs made their first appearance during this time, in that the Silurian period was also the remarkable time in the evolution of fishes. The appearance of the jawfishes are widely spreading in this period, but also highly significant appearances of both the first known freshwater fish as well as the first fish with jaws. In this period, the first land plants and animals were seen. The first good evidence that the life on land is preserved is that the fossils of the relatives of spiders and centipedes are seen in this period. And also the vascular plants, as you can see in the picture, or example of the vascular plants was formed in this period. The continent Laurentia collides with the Baltica and it closes the Lapito Sea, and the coral reefs expand and land plants begin to colonize barren land. The most remarkable biological event during this period was the evolution and diversification of the fishes. In this period, the fishes uh, begin to show, and there were so many fishes such as the freshwater fish and fish with jaws. So next is the Devonian period. In the Devonian period, the pre-Pangea forms, and in the Silurian period, the appearance the fishes are widely spreading, while in this period, their dominant animals, or the animals that are the animals that was seen in this period was mostly the fishes. Then the oceans, still freshwater and fish rather, migrate from southern hemisphere to North America. The present-day Arctic Canada was at the equator and hardwoods began to grow. The amphibians, the evergreens, and ferns appear in the Acadian orogeny, leading to essay metamorphism. This period, the Devonian period, was also known as the Age of Fishes. The period was known as the Age of Fishes because it spawned a remarkable variety of fishes. The other group of fishes that appeared in the Devonian were sharks, lobe-finned fish, the ancestors of the red-finned fish, and the most abundant type of fish today, such as the trout, salmon, and the tuna. Then the pre-Pangea forms and the Acadian orogeny. So what is Acadian orogeny? Acadian orogeny is a long-lasting mountain building event which happens in the Devonian period, and it involves the collision of a series of Avalonian continental fragments with the Laurasian continent. Next is the Mississippian period. The Mississippian period was that the fossil appear in much of the North America is covered by shallows and sea life flourishes. During the Mississippian period, shallow seas covered much of the North America. This period is sometimes called the Age of Crinoids because the fossils of these invertebrates are major components of Mississippian age limestone. Also, noteworthy in this period is that the first appearance of the amphibians in the first seed plants appear. Next is the Sylvanian period. In the Pennsylvanian period, the modern North America begins to form. The ice covers the southern hemisphere and coal swamps form along the equator, and the lizard and winged insects first appear. The Pennsylvanian period is recognized as a time of significant advance and retreat by shallow seas. Many non-marine areas near the equator become coal swamps. The major event of the Pennsylvanian period was the evolution of the terrestrial plants and animals that had advanced to the point where true forests were developed in lowland coastal sites. Picture, you can see the lizard and the winged insects. And in this Pennsylvanian period, they are first to appear. And the next period are the Permian period. In the Permian period, the last period of the Paleozoic, Pangaea forms and the reptiles spread across the continents. The Appalachians rise, and 90% of the Earth's species become extinct due to volcanism in the Iberia, and this marks the end of the Trilobites, Ammonoids, Blastoids, and most of the fishes. So the Permian period derived its name from the Russian region of Perm, where rocks deposited during this time are particularly well developed. It is the last period of the Paleozoic, and the reptiles are spreading across the continents. Then we can also see in the Permian period that 90% of the Earth's species became extinct in this period because of the volcanism. The volcanism in this period has strongly influenced the climate, and the eruptions contributed great amounts in the atmosphere that probably affected the plants and the animals. That's why it leads to the extinction. It is also the time where the extinction of fishes, the trilobites and brachiopods are seen, because in the next period we are going to next period, the rise of the first dinosaur was seen. The Paleozoic era ended in the Permian period, and the beginning of the Mesozoic era begins the Triassic era. The next period where the emergence of the dinosaurs were seen. In the Triassic period, the first dinosaur and mammals appear. The life and fauna rediversify and the Rocky Mountain forms. The first turtle fossil from this period, and the Pangaea breaks apart. So, in the Triassic period, the first dinosaur appear, and Triassic period in the geologic time mark the beginning of the major changes. Meaning there are no fishes that present in this period, because the beginning of the dinosaurs are mostly spreading in this. However, as the years goes by, the Triassic period became more extinct due to the huge and widespread of the volcanic eruptions. Next is the Jurassic period. In the Jurassic period, the Pangaea is still breaking apart, and the dinosaur flourished golden age of the dinosaur, where in this period the first bird appear. The North America continues to rotate away from America. In this period, the Pangaea was still breaking apart. However, many new dinosaurs emerged. Among them are the Stegosaurus, Brachiosaurus, the Allosaurus, and many others. And if we are talking to the climate in this period, was changed from hot and dry to humid and subtropical. In this period, the first and the earliest known bird was the Archaeopteryx, where Archaeopteryx are a are, is a transitional fossil between dinosaurs and the modern birds. And unlike any living birds, Archaeopteryx had a full set of teeth, a flat sternum, a long bony tail, gastrella, and the three claws on the wing, which serve as their advantage when hunting prey. Next is the Cretaceous. In the Cretaceous period, the T-Rex developed, the first snake and the primates appeared. This shows trees and grasses common, and the first flowering plants. And in the Cretaceous, mass extinction marks the end of the Mesozoic era with the demise of dinosaurs and 25% of all marine life. The Cretaceous period is the third and the final period of the Mesozoic era. The name Cretaceous is derived from Creta, Latin for chalk. Then it is also the last portion of the age of dinosaurs. However, it doesn't mean that the age of dinosaur, it doesn't mean that in the Cretaceous there are no dinosaurs formed. However, there are some kinds of dinosaurs that appeared. In this period, the researchers found the first fossil of many insect groups, modern mammal, and the bird groups. And also, the first Cretaceous was the first flowering plant. So the Cretaceous periods is the end of the Mesozoic era, and next is the Cenozoic era that begins in the Tertiary and Quaternary. The Tertiary period has five principal subdivisions: the Paleocene, Eocene, the Oligocene, Miocene, and the Pliocene. The Paleocene, where the first horses appear and the tropical plants are dominate. In the Eocene subdivision, the grasses spread and whales, rhinos, elephants, and other large mammals develop. The sea level rises and the limestone deposits. Then in the Oligocene, the dogs, the cats, and the apes appear. And the Miocene, the horses, the mastodons, the camels, and the tigers roam free and sea. In the Pliocene, the hominids develop and the Grand Canyon form. Next is the Quaternary Period. The Quaternary Period where the modern humans develop and the ice sheets are predominant, or the Ice Age, and the Holocene human flourish. The Quaternary Period was the last period of the Cenozoic era, and this is where the first humans appear. We are living in this period which began approximately 2.58 million years ago, which means that the modern humans were present in these periods. As you can see in the picture, there are pictures of the humans that appeared in the Quaternary Period. As this period have a dramatic climate changes that affected the food resources and have brought the extinction of many species, but this period also saw the rise of the new predator. The new predator was the man. This period was divided into two epochs, the Pleistocene epoch and the Holocene epoch. So that ends the Cenozoic era and the Quaternary period. Next is the adaptation and survival to the fittest. Some populations, whether mammals, amphibians, or reptiles, are better adapted to living conditions than others, even with the same species. So they are better. It means that the mammals, the amphibians, and the reptiles are better to survive than the other species because they can adapt the living conditions of what they are in the environment. Because their chances of surviving are increased, their chances of reproducing offspring are better, and their offspring will possess the same strong traits, and this is the basis for natural selection over long periods of time. So what is natural selection? Natural selection refers to the process where over long periods of time, helpful variations can appear in a species while unfavorable ones disappear. So, natural selection is the process through which species adapt to their environment, and it is also the engine that drives the evolution. Natural selection, it means that if the species cannot live in their environment, then they are the one to disappear. So, for example, a group of frogs living on the rocky side of an island may, over time, adopt a gray skin color to help blend into the rocky environment, while a group of frogs living in the more lush, vegetated side of the island may develop a green skin color to blend in with their particular environment. So, in order for the frog to survive, they need to adapt and change according to its environment. We can see that the frogs are same species, but they have different traits that better suited to its environment. So the frogs that lives in the side may develop a gray skin color to blend with their environment so that they will be safe to the predators, while the frog that lives in the vegetated side of the islands may develop a screen color to blend with their particular environment for them to survive. So even though the frogs are of the same species, they are able to incorporate different traits to help them survive in their environment. Next is the theory of the natural selection, sometimes referred to as the survival of the fittest, started with Charles Darwin. It's the theory of the natural selection, or sometimes referred to as the survival of the fittest, started with Charles Darwin 5-year trip around the world on the HMS Beagle. During this time, he noticed variations within the same species, especially in the Galapagos turtles, and noted that some of the variations were favorable and some were not. He concluded that not all members of the species can survive, which is why the world is not overpopulated by any one species. So, Charles Darwin noticed that there are species that cannot survive and there are species that can survive. The practicality of their adaptation must be a determining factor for who survives and for who does not. Then, what Darwin means about the survival of the fittest is that it means that individuals in a population or community are more likely to survive if they are fitted to their environment. He published findings on his return to England and wrote the classic work The Origin of Species. If you have time, you can search it on the internet and read it to be more to gain more information about the origin of the species. So additional information, additional information, Charles Darwin is an English naturalist, geologist, and biologist that best known for his contributions to the evolutionary biology. Charles Darwin contributed a lot in the evolution of the biology and in the origin of the species. So that ends the discussion of the first topic. So the second topic will be discussed by co-member, which is Sairah Mae Alberto.
So for the second topic, we will talk about the events through time and their extinction. There is evidence that changes in life forms, including additions and extinctions over Earth's history, are frequently accompanied with changes in Earth's environmental circumstances. Environmental conditions can change quickly and dramatically as a result of impacts, climate change, and volcanism. Many organisms are unable to adjust to these abrupt and quick changes, resulting in their extinction. Mass extinctions occur when these disasters are worldwide in scope. Environmental changes on Earth are usually an indicator of species extinction or a species addition. When we say extinction, it's all about the dying out or the disappearing of some species. These changes can be brought about by an asteroid or comet impact, volcanic activity, or climatic changes like the onset of ice ages. Impact is the most well-known extinction is the extinction of the dinosaurs. The claim that multiple impacts have happened throughout Earth's history is supported by evidence. On the ecology and biodiversity, these influences have had both local and large-scale implications. There is evidence that a big asteroid or comet collided with Earth near the end of the Mesozoic era. This impact caused dust and smoke to rise into the atmosphere, causing climatic changes as well as the death of numerous plant and animal species that ate those plants. It took millions of years for the Earth to recover, and when it did, the large dinosaurs were gone forever. Certain species of birds, however, did survive and began to flourish. Birds are thought to be direct descendants of dinosaurs. The second one is the climate change, and climate has always been a constantly changing phenomenon. The earliest atmosphere was devoid of free oxygen, and it wasn't until the earliest life forms evolved that the present-day atmosphere began to form approximately 600 million years ago. Even now, the Earth's surroundings contain a wide range of climates. Climate is the ever-changing state of the planet. During the Paleozoic era, life on land evolved and flourished in tropical temperatures and warm shallow oceans. New life forms arose as distinct geographical habitats arose and water levels shifted over this time period. Over living forms, particularly many marine species that were unable to adapt or find acceptable conditions died out. Many climate changes happened throughout the Mesozoic era as a result of plate tectonics and landmass movement. Plants and animals that survived this period had structures and systems that allowed for higher adaptations, such as seed covering for plant seeds and protective body coverings for animals, as well as a consistent internal temperature. Climate changes conditions are changing now in the Cenozoic era because ice sheets and glaciers blanketed much of the Earth throughout major ice ages. The climate became significantly colder. Many mountain ranges have formed, resulting in climate changes due to height and proximity to the ranges. Ice ages have occurred many times in Earth's history. Climate shifts like this may be caused by magnetic polar reversals or variation of the tilt of the Earth, called Milankovitch cycles. Obviously, not all life can adapt to the extreme cold. Also, not all animals can adapt to the warming climate of the end of an ice age, which probably contributed to the extinction of the woolly mammoth. Volcanic activity which produced ash clouds in the air and lava flows on the Earth's surface, was common during the Precambrian. It was extremely hot and most life forms could not exist in these conditions. Volcanic activity was one of the most natural phenomena during the Precambrian period. Yet lava flows, ash clouds in the atmosphere, and heat made living forms conditions extremely tough. These tiny life forms frequently died as a result of the harsh environment. Volcanoes arose as continents clashed and mountains arose as a result of plate tectonics. Volcanic activity was still widespread during the Paleozoic period. Collision and subduction caused widespread volcanic activity along the plate boundaries during the Mesozoic era. Much of Earth's volcanic activity still occurs along plate boundaries. Volcanic eruptions can hurl ash and dust high into the atmosphere, where it can travel thousands of miles around the Earth. For long periods of time, the sun can be blocked. This type of violent activity has the potential to disturb many of the Earth's system as well as the living forms that rely on them. Extinction of a species occurs when no more members of a particular species remains. Extinction through time is very common, and in fact, nearly 90% of all species that ever lived on Earth are now extinct. Organisms that cannot survive a catastrophic or significant change in Earth's and climate usually become extinct. Extinctions are a way of clearing the path for new kinds of life that is potentially more advanced. This is a natural part of life's process. Natural phenomena that can contribute to the extinction of a species include global climate, volcanic explosions, and celestial impacts. The influence of humans on the environment do not include comet impacts or volcanism. However, man has caused extinctions of all the same. Over the past few hundred years, man has cut rainforests and woodland forests, destroying natural habitats. Pollution from industrial plants and vehicles has also affected the air we breathe and contributed to greenhouse gases, which drive global warming. We're looking at the potential extinction of many species due to this warming trend. In addition to threatening less adaptive creatures than ourselves, man is negatively impacting biological resources that our own species need. Man can adapt to many things with the help of technology. As you can see in the picture, as I've said a while ago, these are the cause of the extinction of the species. Natural factors can cause extinctions and have thus been documented and studied over the course of Earth's history. Organisms that could not survive changes due to volcanic eruptions and global warming, global cooling during ice ages, changes in oxygen levels in seawater, or a massive impact from an asteroid or comet became extinct. When species became extinct, the opportunity exists for another species to fill that ecological niche. Not all extinctions that have occurred naturally throughout Earth's history have had a negative impact. Some of these extinctions have often cleared the way for new kinds of life to emerge. Human-made factors have caused extinctions in more recent times, such as the cutting of the rainforest regions, removing natural habitats, over-harvesting, and pollution. Scientists have evidence to support the claims that human effects on the environment could threaten some biological resources that organisms, including humans, may need for survival. And for the last topic, may I call in Miss Jona Jane Albao to present to us the study of fossils and fossil sites.
Thank you for that, Miss Sairah Mae Alberto. Moving on, we are going to discuss 5 different types of fossils that will be classified later on. But first, let me define the word fossil. Fossil is the remain or impression of a prehistoric organism preserved. Now, on to the classifications of fossils. First, we have the mold fossils. Mold fossils is when sediments hardens into a rock. Let us say, for example, an organism gets covered by a sand, then the sand will harden, leaving the organism inside to decay and forming its shape just like the organism inside. The second one, we have the cast fossil. Cast fossil is something similar to the above mentioned example. If the hardened rock gets covered by a mud, leaving the mud to harden, it will also copy the shape of the organism that was formed in a rock. Now, petrified fossils. Petrified fossils are the type of fossils where minerals replace the remaining bones of a species or organism, changing it to a rock. Next, the carbonized fossil. If petrified fossil replace the remaining bones of an organism, the carbonized fossil leaves an imprint or a carbon print attached on something. And lastly, the last type of fossil, the trace fossils, are the type of fossils where trails of footprint harden into the mud, leaving its shape. Below are the picture samples of different types of fossils. First, we have on the left side, we have the example of a mold fossil. Then on the right side, we have the example of the cast fossil. And then the petrified fossil, carbonized fossil, and trace fossil. The fossil record, like the rock record, is an important record for understanding life on Earth before the dawn of man. Fossils can also show similarities and differences in organisms over time, revealing the diversity of life forms on Earth. Nearly 90% of organisms that have lived on the Earth are now extinct. Extinctions and new life forms are also found within the fossil record. And for the last topic, we have the South Carolina standards, which are used in order for us as a guide for us to discuss the following topics. And these guides are, first, we have how biological adaptations of population enhance their survival in a particular environment. Second, summarize how scientists study Earth's past environment and diverse life forms by examining different types of fossils, including molds, cast, petrified fossils, preserved and carbonized remains of plants and animals, and trace of fossils. And then explain how Earth's history has been influenced by catastrophes, including the impact of an asteroid or comet, climatic changes, and volcanic activity that have affected the conditions on Earth and the diversity of its life forms. Recognize the relationship among the units, era, epoch, and period into which the geologic time scale is divided. Illustrate the vast diversity of life that has been present on Earth over time by using the geologic time scale. Infer the relative age of rocks and fossils from index fossils and ordering of the rock layers. And also summarize the factors of both natural and man-made that can contribute to the extinction of species.
That's all. Thank you.